my body was covered in goosebumps. I had goosies from head to toe. I had goosies in my ears and my nose. I was covered. And I was terrified. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, please take a moment and like this video. Also, subscribe below. If you're listening just on audio, anywhere you listen to podcasts, then please give me a follow. All those things really do help out. As a small content creator, I'm really trying to grow my numbers, so all you guys listening, thank you so much. Okay, so last week we left off here. A blessed cross crucifix around my neck. I'm like pure on pure here. Protected pure. So this thing is not getting anything through my shield. And this week we are going to continue this epic tale. I have to caution you though, even though last week's story was very meek and minor as far as details, it was really just the backstory on how the night started and who was there and blah blah blah. There really wasn't anything like extraordinary happening in that episode. So I get it if it was kind of boring. But in this week's episode, the conclusion to that story, not that I'm going to deliver big dramatic sequences of events, because I'm not. What I am going to tell you is the truth. What happened, what I experienced. It is a true story, first person. I was there. It was me. So I'm really just going to tell you what I remember from it. It was almost 30 years ago. Okay, that out of the way, a little, I don't even know what the word PSA, no. Disclaimer, I guess. This story does deal with demonic possession. So anyone that is triggered by that, scared by that, have young kids and they don't want them to hear about that, you might want to flip this one off. However, if this is something that interests you or you've experienced something similar yourself, then you'll probably enjoy this story. Maybe enjoy is not the best word. Maybe you'll relate to this story. I do have other stories I'd like to share with you guys, if you so like. So I have a story about a skeleton. I have Ouija board stories. I also have stories about hauntings. Are they real? Are they not? What's the scientific proof out there? The history verified by spirit. So kind of the idea behind that one is when you are doing a session, whether it's with a medium or at a haunted location, and a spirit communicates something that's verified through historical reference. Then I have a few other ideas, not necessarily direct stories from me, although the more I investigate, the more I go out there, the more stories I will have. But I do kind of have the idea of talking about things like overactive imagination versus the real thing, as far as hauntings, poltergeist, demonic activity, just regular spirits. So that's kind of an idea I'm working on. Trauma versus PTSD versus just pure anxiety. And also, what's the difference between when you feel alone versus lonely? And how does that contribute to manifesting these hauntings at these different locations? And then I also would love to dive into some more true crime stories. I did touch on a few on this channel, but I'd love to dive into a few more, especially with some new revelations coming both in my country in Canada and in other countries around the world. Another thing I'm thinking I might touch on as well, if there's anybody out there that's a fan, is Big Brother's 25th anniversary is due to start on August 2nd, I believe it is. And I'd really like to get my friend, who we're both kind of like nerds when it comes to Big Brother, get her and I on, kind of discussing the season as it progresses. So if that's something that interests any of you, I need to know, so you're going to have to tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to put it out there and nobody's going to listen, and that'll kind of tell me too. But I really hope that what I'm producing is entertainment for you guys. Now let's just get into the story. Why not, right? From Cape Breton, it's Saturday night. Okay, so you heard where we left off last week. The eyes were black. I was saying the Lord's Prayer. It was freaking out. Well, that's kind of how the night progressed. It was roughly 7:30, 8 o'clock at night when everything started. It is springtime, so I'm just trying to give you a reference in timeline. So it's springtime, May-ish, 1995. 7:30, 8 p.m. at night when everything starts. It was around 6 a.m. when everything really stopped. So we're talking roughly 12 hours of activity. I think at one point, I'm not going to go chronological like hour by hour, minute by minute, because that would be awfully long and awfully boring, because a lot didn't happen until the very, very end. But I will give you some highlights of some major things that happened throughout the night. So, I think at one point in the night I must have gotten up to even just go to the bathroom to relieve myself, given that it was a 12-hour event. But for the most part, I was there, sitting there with this demonic presence. I have to tell you what I've seen on television, in movies, where things are being thrown about, somebody's thrashing, screaming, moaning, growling. That wasn't exactly what I experienced. So if that dashes any of your expectations, I'm really sorry, but I gotta be truthful. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you want to hear with the drama bit, because just for views or for numbers to increase, because that's just not who I am. I'm a truthful person. It was pretty boring and long, but it was constant. And what I mean by that is there was no let up. When I mentioned in the first episode, the first part of this two-parter, my friends, some of them thought he might be faking, and I first thought he might be faking it, but as the night progressed, he didn't break character. Now this guy, this young fella, it's not like he was a brilliant actor or anything. He wasn't. I'll tell you right now, he wasn't. So there were things that happened. I mentioned in the first part about the dual voice at once. So this demonic growly voice with a little boy voice under it happening at the same time. I don't know anyone that can do that. If you guys do, if you've ever heard that before, if you know somebody that has that kind of talent, let me know. But I certainly have never heard of it before. Let me just stop for a sip of my iced coffee with Bailey's. I am hitting the little bit of alcohol in my drink tonight, because the story, it ends with the doozy part, so I needed a little shot tonight. Pardon me. Alright, so the night goes on and on and on. At one point, one of my friends that's out in the living room, and these people that are just out, they're not just out sitting in the living room wondering what the hell is going on in there. They're in and out of the room. They've poked their heads in, they've checked on us. They kind of know what's going on, but I keep pushing them out, saying, just let me deal with it. Not because I think I'm the shit, not because I think I can be the one to control the situation and handle it all by myself. But I kind of had this gut feeling that if there was too many cooks in the kitchen, the place was going to burn down, if you catch my drift. So they kept checking on us, and at one point, I yelled out to a friend of mine, and he was wearing this silver cross around his neck, pretty large, about 3 inches long at the length part, and about 2.5 inches across with the arm across the cross. Well, that was a tongue twister. But it was fairly large is what I'm saying, fit in the palm of my hand. Pure silver. He received it as a gift from his mom, and she had it blessed. I think that's a thing around here. I told you I was wearing a crucifix that my parents got blessed for me. Anyway, so I asked him if he was wearing it. He said yes. I asked if I could have it. Had this feeling that the Lord's Prayer was kind of working. This thing was freaking out. My crucifix is keeping me safe. So I wanted another cross. He gave me the cross. It worked. This demonic possessed guy started backing away from me. He didn't leave the bed. He just kind of backed away a little bit. So we're no longer holding hands at this moment. I'm holding the silver cross. I'm wearing the crucifix. I'm saying the Lord's Prayer. I'm kind of fighting with this thing because it's telling me it wants this guy's soul. I'm telling it there's absolutely no way that's going to happen. I'm not going to allow it. Then I ask for a Bible. We're a bunch of teenagers and early 20-year-olds. We don't have a Bible. What was I thinking? So I deal with what I have. I use what I have. And that's my belief that I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to read the situation and I'm just going to say what comes to me. And that was the Lord's Prayer, of course. And I'm not religious, guys. Not even by a stretch. I'm a Reformed Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I got all the sacraments or whatever they're called. But I'm not one to go to church every week. God, if I go to church, it's usually for a wedding or a funeral. Anywho, so I have this cross in my hand, I have the crucifix around my neck, blah, blah, blah. And this thing's backing away from me. And it's still saying it wants to take this guy's soul. It's going to kill him and take his soul. And I'm fighting him. Nothing's really changing. Hours are going by. I'm getting really tired, really fed up with this bullshit. So I finally call him on it. I call this demonic thing on its bullshit. And I say, how pathetic are you? You're a fucking pathetic mess. And this thing stops its ranting and raving and groaning and moaning and whatever it was doing. And it kind of stops. And the black eyes look at me in this piercing, unsettling way. And I continue, because I know I got its attention now. So I continue and I say, you're pathetic. You are pathetic. You have to come up from the depths of hell to grab this guy's soul? My. You must have slim pickings down there, boy, because you really think his soul is going to do you any good? This is the most pathetic attempt at anything. Now, if you ever did your job right, you might actually have more souls than you can deal with. But here, all the souls are going to heaven. That's right. All the souls belong to God. So what are you going to do about that? And it starts this very deep, guttural growl. And of course I'm nervous. I'm terrified, actually. And I stood my ground and I stared back. I didn't break eye contact. And I can't remember exactly what it said in response, because I don't think it really had a really good response to that, because it was true. It's like if you're at a haunted location and you think you have a negative entity, you ask, are you from the right or from the left? And they have to answer. Because they have to, yes, don't get me wrong. A dark entity, a demonic thing is going to lie to you in 99% of the circumstances. But there's certain things that I truly believe, and you guys out there who have ever dealt with this can probably back me up here. But there's certain things they actually can't lie about. So I had this thing stumped, really. I had it stumped. So it started to call me a bitch. Started to curse at me. More than what it was doing. And I was cursing at it. I was calling it every name in the book. I could open a sailor's vocabulary lesson on the words I was using. And finally it stops and it says to me in this deep, disgusting voice, "Why don't you call me by my name?" I said I would, but you didn't tell me your name. What would you like me to call you? And at this moment, it lifts the hand of my friend that it's possessing, up, puts a finger on the mouth, on the lip, and starts patting his lip, thinking. And as he's doing that, he's saying, I go by many names. I think I like Lucifer. And of course, at the sound of this, my heart probably palpitated. Maybe 3 or 4 times, actually. And I kind of leaned back a bit and I said, Lucifer? Really? Seriously? And it says, yes. I quite enjoy that name. I said, well, Lucifer it is then. So you're telling me I'm dealing with the devil, am I? And yet you're not powerful enough to just take his soul, wipe me out, and go and be on your merry way? You're pathetic. You have no rights to this soul, and you know it. So this again went on and on and on and on, back and forth. Now I know its name, or at least what it wants to be called. I'm not convinced it's the goddamn devil. Are you kidding me? Like I said, if it was the almighty evil entity himself, I think we would all have been wiped out if it wanted its soul. It would have taken all of us down. So anyway, I think it was like a low-lying demonic entity trying to portray himself as this big dude. So I just kept myself strong. And I said, no, you're not taking him, and blah, blah, blah. It went on. I said, I'm not going to bore you with the minute-by-minute details. Now we're coming on to the early hours of the morning. I'm talking 2, 3, maybe even 4 a.m. It was late or early, depending on your perspective. And one of the guys that was in, not the guy with the cross, but another guy, he was kind of had enough, He was in and out of the room. like everybody pretty much was in and out of the room. And he was feeling, okay, enough is enough. Like, we need to end this. So he comes in. I had no idea he was planning on doing anything, to be quite honest. No idea. At this point, let me back up 2 seconds. At this moment, I had asked somebody to bring me like a Sharpie, a permanent black marker, and I still had the cross with me. So I have a marker, I have the cross, and now this dude's coming in the bedroom door, and the demonic possessed guy, let's call him, because things are going to get a little dicey here, it's going to move a little faster. Let's call him Jim. So Jim is sitting on the bed with his cross leg. He's on the bed, his back is to the door. And this other guy, let's call him, I don't know, Andy. Andy comes in the room, guns a-blazing, not literally, we're in Canada, but his, biceps, guns a-blazing, and puts this Jim dude in a sleeper hold headlock. Drags him over the footboard of the bed onto the floor in this, headlock sleeper hold. He thinks he's gonna, knock him out in 12 seconds, he says. He'll be out in 12 seconds. I laughed. I'm thinking, if we're truly dealing with a demon, he's not going to be knocked out. Are you freaking out of your tree? Then, since he's on the floor now, he's flailing about. This Jim guy, this Jim demonic possessed dude, he's flailing. The guy that had the cross, let's call him, I can't think of names off the top of my head. Let's call him Don. Don comes in. He's 6 foot something, or just over 6 feet tall. Jim, the possessed guy, is 5'4", 140 pounds, give or take a pound or two. He's not a big guy at all. So Andy's got him in a sleeper hold headlock on the floor. Andy's pretty stocky. He's probably about Jim's height, 5'4", but he's really stocky and muscular, right? So he's got him in the headlock. Don comes in, and he's 6 foot, 220 pounds maybe, and he wraps his legs around Jim's waist in like a scissor hold. I don't know what it was with these guys and their wrestling moves or whatever. But anyway, a scissor hold around his waist. Then John comes in, and John is tiny like Jim. And he sits on his legs, like almost at his knees. He just sits on them. And then Patty comes in. She's the only girl left. And she just tries to hold his feet from kicking. So she's trying to hold his feet down to the ground. So Jim now has Patty on his feet, John on his knees, on his legs, Don scissor hold across his waist, and Andy holding him down in a sleeper hold on his neck. And Jim has his ankles and his shoulder blades on the floor, and that's it. The rest of his body is arched all the way up. So Jim's body's arched off the floor. You can picture it, can't you? The shoulder blades are touching the floor. The heels of his feet are touching the floor. He's laying with his back against the floor, but his body is arched off the floor with all these people sitting on him. All this weight. And he's only tiny. So there had to have been something demonic going on in his body. So if the eyes and the voice and all these things weren't, valid enough to me, seeing his body arching off the floor while he's still like growling and moaning and all this stuff. Eyes are still black. I'm pretty damn convinced. Then, with all this going on, it growls out, "Where's the bitch?" So all these people on him, this sleeper hold and scissor hold and all these things, and you're calling out for me? Alright. So I lean over the foot of the bed and I said, "I'm right here. What the hell do you want?" And it's spewing nonsense as far as I'm concerned. I can't even remember the exact words it was saying. But I just start saying the only thing I knew. Our Lord's Prayer. And guys, this is not a Catholic commercial here. But honestly, that is the only thing I know off the top of my head. So it's what I relate to and it's what I say. So that's what I started saying. And I grabbed that permanent marker that I had. And I go to put a cross on its forehead. Jim's forehead. I shouldn't call him an it. On Jim's forehead. And it evaporates off. So I do it again. This time it sticks. Or was it the third time? Anyway, it finally sticks to his forehead. Then I try to do it on his chest and it melts away, like evaporates. It must be because this dude was like, his body was running hot. Not that he was hot to look at. That's a different kind of hot. But his temperature was running hot. He was sweaty. So anyway, it wasn't sticking. Finally got the forehead to stick. I said, screw it, I'm not even going to play around with the chest over his heart. I took the silver cross that was still in my hand and I slammed it down on his chest over where his heart would be. And I just repeated the Lord's Prayer. As I'm repeating the Lord's Prayer, and this thing is still moving about, flailing and growling and moaning, I can hear a slight sizzle as the silver cross is burning a cross mark into this guy's chest. The sun is now coming up. I feel a release coming. I feel safety coming. This thing turns its head and looks at me with those black eyes, and it says to me, as my voice trembles and I get goosies all over, it said, "Bitch, you may have won the battle, but you will not win the war. I will be back." And then it left. It was over. Or so I thought. After all of that, Jim collapses to the floor. Andy lets go of his neck. Don lets go of his waist. John gets off his legs, and Patty releases his feet. He turns and he's kind of groggy and he looks at everybody and he's like, "What the hell is going on here, guys? What just happened? Where did the night go?" Dude had no clue what happened, was totally blackout. He doesn't remember a thing from like before the sun went down the night before. We fill him in. Don, Andy, John even. They're all trying to convince me when Jim is out of the room, out of earshot. He faked it, we don't believe it. Although they witnessed the exact same thing I did. And I'll tell you, I know I'm not crazy on this one. I know what I witnessed. I know what I saw. And after this whole event, Jim and I, we didn't know each other very well when this all happened. But afterwards, about a month later, he asked me out on our first date. And we ended up dating for quite some time. Nothing ever happened when we were dating. No events ever occurred. But I mean, I still believe what happened. I'll let you guys make up your mind on that one. But if you want to have a connection and more validity to the story, go back and listen to my Witch at Blackbrook Cemetery story. And what the witch said to me should sound very, very familiar. Alright, so that's it for this week, guys. I'm not sure what I'm going to cover next week. But until then, take care, friends.